In a distant future, humanity exists as one of many species scattered across a galaxy teeming with ancient and powerful races. The Galactic Senate, a coalition of the most advanced civilizations, has kept the peace for centuries. The Senate's laws are strict. No species can engage in war without the Senate's approval. Most species respect this rule, knowing that defying it could lead to swift and brutal retaliation. Humanity, though relatively new to the galaxy, has always kept its distance, wary of getting involved in the larger political games of the cosmos. They are small, resourceful, and just beginning to carve out a place for themselves in the stars. Captain Celine Kor is a seasoned officer in the human navy. Her life is dedicated to the protection of humanity's interests in the galaxy, but she's never been one to blindly follow orders. Celine is pragmatic, grounded in the reality that humanity is not yet a match for the galaxy's more advanced races. She commands the Tyrant's Edge, a sleek experimental warship built for the defense of humanity, but its true capabilities remain largely unknown. Celine is no mere soldier. She is a scientist, engineer, and innovator, always looking for ways to protect her crew and people without relying on brute force. She believes in outsmarting the enemy before it comes to a fight, always seeking an alternative to violence. The Tyrant's Edge is assigned to patrol the outer rim of the galaxy, far from the political machinations of the Galactic Senate. The region is largely unexplored, a vast frontier filled with danger and mystery. Humanity's small fleet of ships monitors any potential threats to their homeworld, but they are under orders to avoid direct conflict unless absolutely necessary. The mission is clear: remain undetected, observe, and ensure humanity's safety. But Celine has always felt that the galaxy is far from a peaceful place, and every passing day feels like a countdown to something more dangerous. One fateful day, while patrolling the edge of known space, the Tyrant's Edge detects an unidentified fleet, an alien race, unknown to humanity and completely unregistered with the Galactic Senate. The ships are massive, their design unlike anything seen by human eyes. These are the Exalthar, a warlike species known for their brutal raids and ruthless conquest. They are a force to be feared for their relentless aggression and advanced technology. But their presence is more than just a random encounter. It is a deliberate provocation. The Exalthar fleet has no orders to negotiate. No communication is established. Instead, they open fire the moment they detect the Tyrant's Edge. Celine's heart races as the battle begins. She knows the odds are stacked against them, and for a moment, she wonders if this will be humanity's first taste of annihilation. The Exalthar attack with overwhelming force, their ships swarming the Tyrant's Edge from all sides. Their weapons cut through the void with ruthless precision, and Celine's crew scrambles to return fire, their own weapons struggling to match the alien firepower. But the Tyrant's Edge is no ordinary ship. It was designed for moments like this, when survival depends not just on firepower, but on ingenuity. Celine, thinking quickly, orders her crew to activate an experimental piece of technology, the very same device that had been discovered by humanity during an expedition on an uncharted planet months before. This artifact, though not fully understood, had the potential to shift the tides of battle. Humanity had been cautious, unsure of its exact nature, but faced with an enemy determined to annihilate them, Celine has no choice but to take the risk. The weapon is something unlike anything the galaxy has seen. It's a pulse wave generator, an ancient piece of technology, long forgotten by its creators. When activated, it emits a blast so powerful that it disrupts everything in its path, obliterating ships in an instant. With one command, Celine unleashes the weapon, praying it will work. The results are immediate and staggering. A massive energy wave ripples out from the Tyrant's Edge, cutting through the Exalthar fleet like a scythe through wheat. The alien ships, once menacing and overwhelming, are reduced to debris in the blink of an eye. Celine and her crew watch in stunned silence as the once feared fleet is obliterated before their eyes. It is a victory, but one that comes with a deep sense of unease. They have won, but at what cost? This unprecedented victory echoes across the galaxy. The news of humanity's successful battle spreads like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the Galactic Senate and the various species that dominate the cosmos. For centuries, no one had seen a species, especially one as young as humanity, capable of such destruction. The Senate, long accustomed to managing the balance of power in the galaxy, is thrown into disarray. There are whispers of fear and awe, but also uncertainty. Humanity has just demonstrated an unknown potential, a power that could disrupt everything. Celine, while trying to process the enormity of their victory, feels the weight of her actions. She did not seek war, nor did she desire such destruction. But in that moment, she made a decision that has altered the course of humanity's future forever. The battle is over, but the consequences are only just beginning. Humanity, once a quiet observer, has now been thrust into the center of a galaxy that is unsure of what to make of them. And Celine Core? She realizes that her people's future now rests on a precipice, and whatever happens next could change everything. The Battle of Pyra's Gate had been intended to be little more than a skirmish, a test of humanity's ability to defend itself, a mere blip on the galactic radar. No one, not even Captain Celine Core, expected it to turn into a full-scale galactic event. Yet, the ripple effects of the battle were felt across the entire galaxy. Humanity, previously seen as a small, insignificant species, had just proven they could obliterate an entire alien fleet with a single strike. The implications were far-reaching, and the Galactic Senate was anything but pleased. The Senate, a vast and ancient organization that had kept the galaxy's peace through diplomacy and strict regulation of military power, was now faced with an unprecedented crisis. The peace treaties that had existed for centuries, agreements between species to prevent all-out war, were now in jeopardy. Humanity's unprovoked assault on the XL-Thar had broken one of the fundamental laws of the galaxy, the restriction on war without Senate approval. What had been a simple defensive action by a young species had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, threatening the delicate balance of power. Celine, once an officer on the edge of galactic politics, now found herself summoned to answer for her actions in front of the highest authority in the galaxy. The Senate convened in a grand council chamber filled with delegates from countless species, each representing their own interests. Celine was forced to stand before them, her once proud victory now cast as an existential threat to galactic stability. The voice of the Senate boomed through the hall, angry and accusatory. The XL-Thar attack, which had been known to the Senate for years, was framed as an ongoing issue that humanity had no right to interfere in. They had acted without permission, and for that, the consequences would be severe. "You have violated the sanctity of the treaties," the voice of the Senate echoed through the chamber. "You have shown that humanity's potential for destruction is beyond control. We cannot allow such power to go unchecked." In the aftermath of the battle, the Senate's response was swift and brutal. A resolution was quickly passed: humanity was to be banned from all forms of warfare. Celine's once heroic victory now became the justification for a galactic crackdown. The Senate feared that humanity's raw, untempered power, displayed so effortlessly with the pulse-wave generator, could upset the entire galaxy. They saw humans as an unpredictable, volatile force, capable of dismantling the delicate balance of peace the Senate had worked centuries to establish. The implications for humanity were stark. The Senate's decision meant that humanity would be relegated to the sidelines of galactic politics, forbidden from defending themselves or taking any active role in the galaxy's affairs. The very nature of humanity's existence in the galaxy, fighting for survival, seeking autonomy, was now under threat. But Celine, still reeling from the battle's aftermath, couldn't help but feel a deep sense of betrayal. She had only wanted to protect her crew, to protect humanity. But now, she stood accused of triggering a chain of events that could doom them all. ASA the Senate moved to enforce this ban on warfare. Alliances began to shift in unexpected ways. The XL-Thar, though humiliated by their defeat, were not finished. Their fleet had been decimated in the battle, but they were not a species to be so easily cowed. The XL-Thar began rallying support from other races' factions within the Senate, who felt that the ban on humanity was not just a necessary punishment, but an opportunity to reshape the galactic order. These factions saw humanity's rise as a threat to their own established power and influence, and they were eager to see the Senate's authority reinforced at all costs. Among Celine's own people, the reaction was mixed. Some saw her actions as a betrayal. The humans had acted without the approval of the Senate, and now they faced a future of servitude, of being sidelined in a galaxy where their voice no longer mattered. Others, however, began to rally behind her, arguing that the Senate's decision was an unjust punishment, a means of silencing humanity's potential for greatness. The unity within humanity was crumbling, and in the midst of this turmoil, Celine found herself caught in a moral quagmire. But then, something far more unsettling occurred. The true nature of the pulse wave generator was revealed. The weapon that had obliterated the Exeldar fleet was not of human design. It had been discovered on an uncharted planet, a remnant of a long-forgotten race that had vanished centuries ago. This technology, while devastating, was far more ancient and powerful than humanity could have ever conceived. As Celine's crew dug deeper into the origins of the weapon, they uncovered fragments of a dark truth. The weapon had been hidden for a reason. The race that had created it, the one whose remnants humanity had unknowingly activated, had disappeared because of their own destructive capabilities. This was a technology far beyond what any single species in the galaxy should possess. The discovery shook Celine to her core. The weapon was not just a tool for destruction. It was a ticking time bomb, a piece of history that held more power than any of them had anticipated. And worse still, it was a power that even the Galactic Senate did not fully understand. The Senate, which had been watching humanity with increasing suspicion, now faced the reality that the very thing they feared, their belief that humanity was a dangerous and uncontrollable force, was not unfounded. The weapon's power was incomprehensible, and it had been unleashed by a species with no knowledge of its true consequences. Now Celine faced an impossible decision. The Senate wanted humanity to surrender their newfound power, to forfeit the potential of the pulse wave generator and disarm completely. In return, humanity would be allowed to exist, but only as passive members of the galactic community without the power to defend themselves. To accept the Senate's demand would be to condemn humanity to a life of submission, to forever live under the thumb of the galaxy's more powerful races. But Celine knew that keeping the weapon and the knowledge of it could be just as dangerous. If she used it to challenge the Senate's authority, humanity would risk being destroyed by their own hand, or worse, being labeled a pariah, hunted across the stars. Celine's dilemma was clear. To surrender humanity's newfound power would mean surrendering humanity's future, but to keep, it could plunge the galaxy into chaos. Her crew looked to her for answers, but there were no easy choices left. The battle had only just begun. For days, Captain Celine Kor couldn't escape the weight of her decision. She had fought to protect her people, to ensure their survival in a galaxy where they were constantly at the mercy of more powerful species. Yet now, that same galaxy was threatening to silence humanity's future. The Senate's decree was final. Humanity was permanently banned from war. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer be allowed to rise, to defend, or to fight back. Instead, they were to be isolated, forgotten, and weak. In Celine's mind, the decision was tantamount to a death sentence. The Senate's punishment wasn't just a ban on war, it was an attempt to subjugate humanity entirely. The galaxy's more powerful factions, the ones who could now stand unchecked, were closing in. The Exeldar, still humiliated by their defeat, had begun regrouping, their leaders rallying with other races who saw humanity's rise as a threat to their control. Even those who didn't openly support the Exeldar saw humanity's potential as something dangerous, something that needed to be contained before it could upset the balance of power that had lasted for eons. In Celine's heart, a bitter realization began to set in. The Senate, which had claimed to be the arbiters of peace, had now condemned humanity to a future of isolation and subjugation. The very institution that had long promised to bring order to the galaxy was, in fact, a power-hungry machine that operated under the guise of diplomacy and balance. Humanity, the young species that had once been on the brink of extinction, now faced the ultimate test: to accept the Senate's decree or risk everything by defying it. But then, just as the weight of the situation began to crush her, an unexpected message arrived. It was encrypted, a hidden transmission from a faction within the Senate itself. Celine, weary from the constant pressure, nearly dismissed it as another meaningless communique, a further attempt to suppress her. but something in the transmission caught her attention. The message was from an old ally, a former diplomat and senator, who had once been a strong supporter of humanity's right to stand on equal footing with the other galactic powers. But the contents of the message sent a shiver down her spine. The senator, now in hiding, revealed the unthinkable. The Galactic Senate was not the noble institution Selene had believed it to be. In fact, the Senate was far from being a neutral force of peace. It was a deeply corrupt organization built on the exploitation and subjugation of weaker species for the benefit of a few. The Senate's very existence had been predicated on maintaining control over those who had the potential to challenge its rule. The Exalthar and other warlike races were just pawns in this game of galactic manipulation. Humanity's victory had exposed that potential, and now the Senate was desperate to keep that power suppressed. The message revealed that the Senate's decision to ban humanity from war wasn't about peace at all. It was about preserving the status quo, about ensuring that only the most established and powerful species could ever rise to dominate the galaxy. The Senate had feared humanity because, for the first time in centuries, a species had shown it could rise up and reshape the power structures that had long dictated the galaxy's fate. This revelation cut through Selene's soul like a blade. Everything she had believed, everything she had fought for, had been a lie. The Senate, which had been presented as the bastion of order and balance, was nothing more than a machine built on oppression and control. Humanity's success had threatened that machine, and now the galaxy's most powerful entities were attempting to crush them before they could become too much of a force. Selene felt the tide of anger rise in her chest. The galaxy had always been divided, but humanity had just shown it could break free from that division. The Senate's plan to isolate and silence humanity was an attempt to stifle the very essence of what her people had become. Humanity didn't just deserve a place in the galaxy, they deserved to define their place, on their own terms. But to do so, Selene realized they had to confront the Senate and its carefully cultivated power structure head-on. A sense of urgency seized her. There was no time to waste. Selene knew she had a weapon, one that had already proven its devastating potential, the pulse wave generator. But this time, the stakes were higher. This wasn't about taking down a single alien fleet or defending her crew. This was about reshaping the fate of the galaxy itself. As Selene debated her next steps, the magnitude of the decision hit her. She could no longer simply accept the Senate's decisions. Humanity's future, and the future of countless other species, depended on breaking free of the Senate's stranglehold. And if that meant using the weapon, then so be it. But this time, the weapon wouldn't be a mere defense, it would be a statement. A declaration to the galaxy. Humanity would not be controlled. In a moment of clarity, Selene made her choice. She knew that to dismantle the Senate's corrupt regime, she would have to act quickly and decisively. There was no room for hesitation. With her crew behind her and the pulse wave generator ready, Selene set the stage for an irreversible action, a coup within the heart of the Senate. In the dead of night, as the Senate convened in its grand chamber, Selene and her allies made their move. The weapon, now a symbol of humanity's defiance, was deployed. A single strike, and the Senate's most powerful leaders were reduced to nothing more than a smoldering reminder of the tyranny they had wrought. As the galaxy watched in stunned silence, the message was clear: humanity would no longer be a pawn in the Senate's game. The immediate consequences were catastrophic. The Senate's leadership had been obliterated, and its power structure was shattered. The galaxy was thrown into chaos. Species that had once stood in the Senate's shadow now questioned their place in the new order. The Exalthar, realizing that humanity had struck at the heart of the Senate, hesitated in their plans for retribution. A new kind of war was brewing, one that wasn't about conquering planets, but about reshaping the very essence of galactic governance. But for Selene, the cost of her decision weighed heavily. She had dismantled the Senate, but in doing so, she had unleashed a galaxy-wide conflict. The road ahead was uncertain. There were no guarantees that humanity's revolution would succeed, and the consequences of their actions were impossible to predict. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity's place was no longer dictated by others. Now, it was up to them to decide what role they would play in the galaxy. And that decision, in Selene's mind, would be the greatest challenge of all. The collapse of the Galactic Senate sent shockwaves through the entire galaxy. In the wake of Selene's coup, a power vacuum emerged, one so vast and volatile that the stars themselves seemed to tremble under its weight. The Senate's once impenetrable structure had crumbled like a dying star, leaving behind fractured alliances, broken systems, and uncertain futures. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer a passive player in the galactic stage. They were the central force, the one that had toppled the old order. Yet, as the dust settled, a sobering realization took root within Captain Selene Core. The war was over, yes, but the chaos was just beginning. The Senate's fall had created a new era, one where the old powers no longer controlled the galaxy. But that didn't mean the galaxy was now ripe for peace. Instead, the galactic landscape had transformed into a fractured, unpredictable battleground, where new powers emerged from the rubble, each seeking to stake a claim in the vacuum left by the Senate. Humanity had played a pivotal role in this shift, and now they had become the focus of every faction's attention. Some saw the humans as potential allies, a new force to wield in the ongoing struggle for dominance. Others, however, viewed humanity's newfound power with fear, as a wild, uncontrollable entity that had just as much potential for destruction as for creation. Humanity, for better or worse, had proven themselves capable of bringing about a cataclysmic change, and now the galaxy was watching closely, waiting to see what they would do next. Selene stood at the helm of a new world, one she had never envisioned. The pulse wave generator that had once symbolized their victory, the weapon that had dismantled the Senate's power, now weighed heavily on her conscience. In her heart, she knew that their victory came at a cost. Humanity's rise to power had been a result of force, not diplomacy. They had used the same weapon of destruction that the Senate had wielded to subjugate weaker species. Now, the question loomed, could humanity avoid becoming the very thing they had fought against? The galaxy's future, now more uncertain than ever, was no longer in the hands of the old powers. The Senate, in its arrogance and corruption, had played its part in shaping history, but that history was now over. The new galaxy was being defined not by the ancient empires, but by the actions of a young and unpredictable species. Humanity, for the first time, had a chance to decide what they wanted to be: a force of domination or a force of cooperation. Selene had always believed that humanity's strength lay in its ability to adapt and innovate, but now she faced an even greater challenge. Could humanity rise above its own destructive tendencies and carve a new path forward? She had led her people into a new era, but what kind of future would they build? Would they be the galaxy's masters, ruling with an iron fist? Or would they learn from their past mistakes and strive for a more cooperative, peaceful existence? The uncertainty was overwhelming. Factions that had once feared humanity's rise now saw an opportunity. Some, like the remaining Exalthar, were regrouping, seeking to challenge humanity for dominance, while others, like the Cruxari and the Yizar, were more open to alliances, hoping to form new coalitions with the humans to secure their own futures. Every race, every species in the galaxy had to make a choice about how they would engage with the humans. And humanity, in turn, had to decide what they wanted from the galaxy. In this new world, the answers weren't clear. Selene knew that her people had the potential to shape the galaxy, but it was still uncertain what path they would take. The galaxy could either descend further into chaos, with various factions vying for control, or it could be reborn into something altogether new. And humanity would have to decide which of those futures they would pursue. Days turned into weeks, and Selene found herself at the center of negotiations with various galactic factions. She sat in rooms filled with representatives of species that had once viewed humanity with disdain. Now, they sought her counsel, hoping to forge alliances or simply to understand the nature of this unpredictable species. But as the negotiations continued, it became clear that even as humanity's power grew, so too did its division. Some factions within humanity wanted to forge a path of dominance, to ensure that they would never again be subjected to the whims of the Senate or any other galactic power. Others, however, longed for a different future, one where humanity could be a force for peace, where they could bring the galaxy together rather than tear it apart. It was, at that moment, as Celine stood on the precipice of an uncertain future, that the final message came. It wasn't from a senator, a general, or even a diplomat. It was a simple declaration from her own lips, a message broadcast across the stars to every corner of the galaxy. "We are not the galaxy's masters," Celine's voice echoed, soft but resolute. "We are its wild card. Our future is ours to define." In those words, she laid the foundation for a new chapter. Humanity would no longer be a tool for destruction or a victim of fate. They would carve their own path, not through force, but through the choices they made. The galaxy, once a place of rigid order and established rules, would now be a canvas for humanity to shape, as unpredictable and wild as the species itself. The galaxy held its breath. The war was over, but the true battle had only just begun. The battle for a new order in the stars was at hand, and humanity stood at the crossroads. Would they lead with fear and power, or would they redefine what it meant to be truly free? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the old ways were gone, and a new future was waiting to be written.